Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Well, it's almost Christmas and most of us we do need some last minute Christmas cards. So here I have a very simple and easy technique to mass produce your last minute Christmas cards. I have them in tons of colors, there's a lot of glitter, sparkle. I'll be sharing some tips and tricks not just to mass produce your Christmas cards but also cards which you could use throughout the year. Well, before we get started, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to my channel and don't forget to hit the bell icon so that you get notified each time I post a new video. Well, let us begin by taking a look at this huge 6 by 8 stamp set by Simon Says Stamp. This is the Joy to You and Yours stamp by Simon Says Stamp, which was part of my December 2022 card kit. I'll be using the big floral design and the season's greeting sentiment. Well, for our first card, I also will be using the Lumberjack Plaid Distress ink cube, which was also part of my card kit. I'll be choosing all my holiday colors here. I have reds, greens, blues. Well, you could use any ink pad of your choice. I got this in the kit, so I will be using that. But I also have used my Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated inks for the other colors. Now here you'll see that I have a panel cut to 4 by 5 1/4. It is slightly smaller than an A2 size card base, and I have adhered the stamp onto the door of my stamping tool. I will be stamping this image twice on the cardstock diagonally opposite to each other. All I'm doing here is inking up my stamp. The Distress ink pads is a really versatile product. I have used it for bunch of stamping, ink blending, even on my embossing folders. And well, if you've watched my previous video, I also used it to swipe on my embossed background. It does give a very crisp colored image. Now this floral image you see here is really detailed and very intrinsic, so I made sure that I had applied enough pressure. Well, I either like using something flat to apply even pressure, because if you just press your fingers over it, it might lead to the ink smudging and you get a very distorted image. Now to get the diagonally opposite image, all I did is rotated my card panel and inked up the stamp again and stamped as I did before. Well, you will see that the ink pad is nice and juicy, so I didn't have to stamp it twice. But if you want a more brighter and more crisp image, you could go ahead and stamp your image twice. I wanted more of a vintagey look, so I am not worried if my color is very dark or crisp. I am happy with just one stamping. I press the door of my stamping tool very firmly so all that color gets transferred on my panel. Well, take a look at how beautiful this image looks. Don't bother about the center where you feel it looks a lot blank. I will be placing my sentiment, the season's greeting sentiment, which will also be the focal point of our card. Now, as I have my stamp placed on my stamping tool, I thought might as well I would take this time to stamp the inside panel of our card. I left the stamp as is where it was and just placed another 4 by 5 1/4 panel on my stamping tool, and I'll be using a lighter shade of red. You could use the same Lumberjack Plaid ink, but I wanted to go a shade lighter, so I have my barn door distress ink pad. Now, unlike the front panel where I stamped this image diagonally opposite, for the inside panel, I will be stamping this image just once on one corner of this panel. I don't want to overcrowd the inside panel because I need to write my message there. I love the red floral image. You could use some light pencil colors to even color the image. Well, what's a Christmas card without some shine and sparkle? So here I have my gold metallic watercolor, and I will be splattering a generous amount of this on both the front panel and the inside panel. All I'm doing here is I wet the paintbrush and dipped it in the gold metallic watercolor and tapped it against a pencil or a pen. That I feel gives an even distribution of color. Next, I thought of adding some kind of border to my card panels. So all I'm doing is brushing my paintbrush filled with the color on the edges of both the card panels. Another way to add this metallic gold bordered edges is by just dragging your VersaMark ink pad over the edges and pouring some generous amount of gold embossing powder and heat fixing it. That also gives beautiful results. Once I was done with all that splatter, I will let those panels dry. Until then, I will work on my sentiments. For my sentiments, I am using the Seasons Greeting sentiment from Joy to You and Your stamp set, and I will be gold heat embossing it on a red cardstock. I use the red cardstock to match the Lumberjack Plaid ink, which was the floral focal point of our card. Before stamping my sentiment, I made sure that I used my anti-static powder tool over the panel, and using VersaMark ink, I stamped the sentiment twice. I'm using the Simon's Stamp Ultrafine Gold Embossing Powder, and I will heat fix this. You could also use some silver embossing powder, which would give amazing results. But I wanted to match my sentiment strip with all the gold splatters and the gold edging that I did on my card panels. So here I am using the gold embossing powder. To remove all that white excess anti-static powder from my panel, what I'll do is once I've done heat fixing it, I will give it a couple of seconds to cool down and just wipe it off with my fingers or, well, like you see here with my sleeve. I did go ahead and fussy cut the sentiment, leaving a slight red border all around it. There are coordinating dies available which can be bought separately from the Simon's Stamp website. Now, for the base of my card, I am using the same red cardstock that I used to create my sentiment, and all I did was stuck both the card front and the inside panel using some double-sided tape and popped up my sentiment, which is the focal point of our card, using some foam tape. Now you will see here I am applying some glue over the foam tape. This gives me some wiggle room before I can finally go ahead and fix the tape permanently. Once I'm satisfied with the positioning of the sentiment, I will go ahead and firmly press it down. That's why I love using glue over foam tape, because foam tape would directly stick my sentiment and would not let me align if in case I made any error. Here's a look at our finished card. Off camera, I also went ahead and stamped the same floral image on a white envelope using the same Lumberjack Plaid ink, and for my sentiment, I used the Holiday Wishes stamp, again stamped it using the Lumberjack Plaid ink. Here's a look at the finished card. Well, if you're mass producing this card, I would recommend to do each step at a time, wherein we did the floral stamping for the front panel. I would recommend doing all of your panels at a time. Then, for the second step, go stamp the inside panel. Then, the third step would be stamping the sentiments. I did go ahead and create a bunch of different colors. I created blues, greens, and red. For blues, I used Cadette and Royal Simon's Stamp Positively Saturated ink, and for the greens, I have Pine and Aspen. All of the supplies that I used will be linked down in the description box below. I also have matching envelopes for each of my cards. This was a very simple project, very easy to recreate and mass produce. All you need to change is the sentiment if you want to create this card for some other occasion. I would love for you to become a subscriber to my channel, and if you do subscribe or are already a subscriber, please make sure to hit the bell icon so that you don't miss the next time I post. Hit the like button and let me know in the comments down below if you have any ideas or suggestions. Also, if you'd like to share your creations, please tag me on my Instagram at rp_shutterbug. There's a link to that in the description box below. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe.